The next song, hymn number 88, I Sing the Mighty Power of God. I sing the mighty power of God that made mountains rise, that spread mountains in the road and built the rocky sky. I sing the wisdom that worked was not to rule the day. The moon shakes at his command, and all the stars obey. I sing the goodness of the Lord that filled the earth with good. He formed the creatures with His word and pronounced them good. Marvel and wonders are displayed. Who might turn my heart if I survey the knowledge who gaze upon the sky? There's none like more marvelous, my peace and glory is gone, and love surprises them with love, my order from thy throne. Great is the glory from thee, for subject to thy care. There's not a place where we can go. God is rest and prayer. Let us sing Sweet Hour of Prayer, hymn number 478. Sweet hour of prayer, sweet hour of prayer, that calls me from the world away, and leads me on my mother's side, break all my bonds and reaches down. This rest and breathe, my soul has come and walk freely, and always say that endless day my love returns me all prayer. Sweet hour of prayer, sweet hour of prayer, thy wisdom I peace and way to keep us true and faithful ways, engage the radiant sun to rest. All cast on Him, my everything, and wait for Thee, sweet hour of prayer. Sweet hour of prayer, sweet hour of prayer, may I thy consolation share, till from the peace pray. Chapter 8, Daring to Ask for More. The audacity of humble faith. Now unto him that is able to do exceeding abundantly above all that we ask or think, according to the power that worketh in us, Ephesians 3. One of my favorite modern day testimonies of additions, faith-filled prayer comes from my friends Pastor Jerry and Janet Page, and their prayer partners from the Central California Conference. Back 1995, when Pastor Page was elected as the Central California Conference president, he and his wife Janet arrived to find the conference struggling financially. Monthly Bay Academy was almost $2 million in debt, and the conference leadership was considering closing the annual Southwell Camp meeting, even though many members wanted to see it continue. As Pastor Pace discussed all the problems needing discussion with his wife, Janet, she just suggested he asked church members in the conference to become prayer partners. For the Central California Conference, he did, and over 300 members responded. He also persuaded the conference committee to conduct one more social camp meeting so they could see how things were working and seek God's will for the future. Pastor Page then sent out a newsletter to the new prayer partners, asking them to pray earnestly over the next upcoming camp meeting. The prayer partners were asked to pray the attendance would increase and that God would fill the meeting with His presence in such a mighty way that it would be obvious to all that God wanted the camp meeting to continue. Janet, a true believer in the power of prayer, was strongly led by the Lord to begin recruiting local prayer partners to come pray at the conference office for the burdens and need of the conference. Before camp meeting the year, she and some prayer partners also began walking the subtle campgrounds. Not long after, amazing things began to happen. Drivers coming to deliver trailer rentals would share that when they drove through the gates, they sensed something special about the place. When that year's camp meeting began, God's blessing was evident in a new and powerful way. Each person attending was prayed with at the gate as they entered. Many who came said that had never experienced the Lord's presence so strongly before. Young adults shared that they had felt compelled to attend, which is just that the prayer partners had prayed for. The preaching was with such power that many came forward giving their lives to the Lord. Additionally, the evangelism offering, which had always been coming in short, for the first time reached the $100,000 goal mark. People couldn't believe it, but this was just the beginning. During camp meeting, the page put out paper slip on all the chairs with an invitation to join the conference prayer partner. Over 300 more people joined the prayer team. To keep everyone updated on what to pray for, they began sending out conference prayer requests every quarter. The prayer challenges were many, but at the top of the list were that Monterey Bay Academy could get out of debt and that God's blessings would be felt in mightier way at the yearly soccer company. God answered both prayers in amazing ways. With approximately 2 years, Monterey Bay Academy was completely out of debt, and more miracles began happening at Sokol Company. Janet and her prayer partners continued meeting each week in the conference office to pray.
Because of all this answered prayer, those first 2 years, they were convicted that more people needed to see the power of prayer. So they began praying that God would give them a special token, something to show the conference members that there was truly power in united faith. Of course, the greatest burden was that God would really turn the lives of the attendees around. They wanted people to see that their struggling marriages did not need to be lost. That backsliding children could be redeemed from darkness, and that God's work could still go forward with power, even when circumstances looked discouraging and times were hard economically. After praying about this special token for many weeks, their small prayer group became convicted to pray that at the next camp meeting, the evangelist offer would not reach just $100,000, but $125. They knew this would be a powerful testimony that would encourage the conference membership that God can do great things when people unite together in faith and prayer. When camp meeting began, Janet asked the camp meeting team to pray for this as well. The next year, God answered their united prayer and the evangelism offering reached a whopping $138,000. When all of their prayer grew, they rejoiced for they knew it was only because God was working. When the conference members found out that the prayer partners had been praying for this very blessing signs of God's power, many began to cry and inspire. More conference members began to pray, and as a result, more lives were revived and changed. The next year, after listening to God in fervent prayer and much sacrificial giving, over $250,000 came in. While the evangelism committee was reluctant to set higher financial goals, the prayer partners continued to pray audaciously, some not only asking God to make the offering increase, but also asking God what amount they should pray for. When God impressed them with a specific dollar amount, they began to pray boldly for this amount, knowing many lives were being changed as a result of what was taking place at Sokol Camp meeting each year. By the fourth year, the evangelism offering went up to $500,000. Again, this is by more giving and more praying. Through united prayer, the Central California Conference began to thrive. The conference hired multiple Bible workers, planted churches, started many youth and young adult ministries, and keep full-time evangelism team busy. God worked miracles in the personal lives of conferences conference members by restoring marriages, bringing lost children back to the church, and winning spiritual battles. Many, including pastors and Mrs. Page, after time in prayer, were impressed by the Lord to pledge by faith beyond their monetary means to support the yearly evangelism offering. However, each year they watched with joyful amazement as God provided. One by one, conference members testified how God had supplied the money. They each had sacrificially pledged for His work. It was if God was reminding them all of His promise. Give and it shall be given unto you. God measure pressed down and shaken together and running over shall be given to your bosom, for with the same measure that you meet without it shall be measured to you again. Luke 6:38. After 8 years of this is exciting prayer journey, seeing God bless the conference in unimaginable ways. The evangelism offering reached $1 million. Everyone was praising God. The next year, this miracle happened again. However, the prayer partners did not grow content, but continued asking God what they should pray for next. The 10th year, a few of the prayer partners were convicted to pray that God would double the offering and bring in $2 million. Some of the conference leaders felt this was impossible, but the prayer partners prayed anyway. Saturday night, during the final weekend at camp meeting the next year, as Pastor Page was getting ready to go out to speak, A man came up and asked him how the offering was coming along. Pastor Page responded that it was coming along very well and that they would probably reach $1 million again. Although a few of the prayer partners he confided seeming to be going a little crazy, had felt impressed to pray for $2 million. The man cited Kathy. Really? He asked in amazement. Are you kidding me? The prayer team is praying for $2 million? Yes, Pastor Bakes responded. The man then began to share how the afternoon he had in his brother had decided to ask God what they should do to help with the evangelism offering that year. At first, they were both thinking of giving $100,000 to help. But as they talked, God impressed them that they should put $1 million on top of all the other gave. Now it was Pastor Page's time. That grew wide with amazement. God had once again heard and answered prayer. After 15 years in a Central California conference, Pastor Jerry Pate and his wife, Janet, were called to work at the Seventh-day Adventist World Church headquarters in Maryland. But even after they left the Central California conference, the evangelism of has continued to be over $1 million every year. It's very evident that God has continued to work in a mighty way in Central California Conference, as the prayer partners have continued to pray bold, audacious, faith-filled prayers. While we should never be demanding of presumptuous in our prayers, I believe that God likes it when we make large, even audacious requests of Him, especially if these prayers will glorify His name. Of course, it's important that just as the Central California Prayers Partners did, we first go to God and ask what it is that we should be praying for. If we first take a line and serve with God's will, then knowing that the Holy Spirit has guided our prayers, we can pray boldly and audaciously. John 15:7 tell us, if ye abide in me and my words abide in you, you shall ask what you will, and it shall be done unto you. Imagine that God would do if, instead of trying to do all works in our own strength, we would listen to His voice, learn to abide in Him, and then spend significant time in prayer. Inspiration tells us the same compassionate Savior lived today, lives today. And He is willing to listen to the prayer of faith as when He walked visible among men. The natural cooperates with the supernatural. It is a part of God's plan to grant us an answer to the prayer of faith, that which He would not bestow, that we not just us. Reading the pages is testimony. Some may shake their heads in this belief thinking. It is great God did his further conference. They had hundreds, if not thousands, of people involved. But what about my little church? We don't have enough members to run any more ministries, and we can barely collect $200 a month in offering. How could we ever do anything really great for God? How could we dare to ask God for more? We are only a few. Well, let me share such a story. The little church that could. The English branch of the Central Korean Seventh-day Adventist Church in Washington State witnessed powerful how God can answer prayer when everyone steps out and faith together, expecting big things. Martin Kim, a pastor and prayers evangelist, shared his story in his own word. In December, our church being convicted that we all needed to become more actively involved in fulfilling the Great Commission and helping missions began designating all those offering for foreign missions. Typically, those offering amounted to about $200 each month. It wasn't much, but we knew that overseas this money would go a long way to feed the physical and spiritually malnourished. After our second collection of around $200 in January, I listened to a powerful message by our overseas missionary who shared story of how God had provided and moved the work forward. And then I was really challenged when this missionary asked if we would ever have enough money to finish the work. No, of course not, not even $10 million or $100 million could be enough. Thus, we should learn to move forward by faith, trusting the God of infinite resources to provide. Agreeing with this challenge, I knew that if we didn't step forward and faith and trust God to do what only He could do, we would never finish the work. After all, the Jordan River didn't part until the first phrase put his feet in the water. God always wants to see His people move in faith. So I began to pray, Lord, I want to step forward in faith. I want to see you do the kinds of things that this missionary talks about. Lord, what do you want us to do in our little church? I began thinking about our special offering for foreign mission. Initially, I wanted to challenge our church to pray for a $500 offering. But I decided that $500 did not require much faith at all. After much prayer and thought, I finally concluded that it would definitely require a lot of ask God for us $1,000 offering. Since our last offering collected in January had gone to provide rice for the people of Vietnam, our group decided to provide Bibles for the Vietnamese in February. So the following Sabbath, I put this challenge to our member, asking them to pray for an offering $1,000 so we could provide 200 Bibles to the people of Vietnam. Every Sabbath and do the weekly church and announcements via email, our members were reminded to pray for this special gift. I reminded them that when we pray, God moves and does that which only He can do. We also encourage our members with promises from God's Word. Ellen White writes, many whom God has qualified to do excellent work accomplish very little because they attempt little. Thousands pass through life as if they had no definite object for which to live, no standard to reach. Such will obtain a reward proportionate to their works. On the other hand, Christ's disciples expected much, therefore they attempted much. His disciples give the pattern we are to follow today. In February, God, God blessed us, not with $1,000, but with $438. Instead of giving the Vietnamese 200 Bible, we were able to provide 876. What do you do after you witness the power of prayer and see God moves in such a mighty way? We decided that praying for the same amount would show no faith. So we decided to take the last amount and round up. We prayed that God would bless us with $4,500 offering in March. This time, we wanted to use the funds to provide bamboo churches for Cambodia. If we raised $4,500, we could provide at least 8 churches. In March, God blessed us with an offering of $6,684. Rather than building 8 churches, we were able to build 12. Once again, we had witnessed God's power and grace. To make a long story short, we continue each month to dare to ask for more and more. And over the course of that year, we saw over $120,000 come through our church, just for foreign mission alone. It was almost unbelievable, except we were older and saw it happen month by month. Can you tell me that God doesn't answer audacious prayer? He not only answers, but He's just longing to pour out blessings exceedingly above our greatest expectation. Prayer is not a part of the work. It is the most important work. When we work, we work. But when we pray God's work, how to is interceding for the deliverance of nations. This saw us a 20th century missionary to Africa and later to Europe. There to ask for more. Not only did he pray for more resources to do the Lord's work and more souls for the kingdom, but he also prayed for the deliverance of nations so that the gospel work could go forward unhindered. This powerful revivalist and intercessor built the Bible College in Wales just a few years before World War II began. Once the war began, recognizing the threats of Hitler's regime to the spread of the gospel, he immediately rallied his staff and students, about 100 to begin interceding that God would counteract the works of Hitler and the enemy of souls. All during the war, the Wales Bible College staff and students devoted from 7 p.m. until midnight every night in prayer. This was in addition to an hour-long prayer meeting in the morning and at noon. During the hardest days of battle, they often fasted and prayed all throughout the day and often all night. As Hitler's Nazi regime brought tragedy and destruction to the lives of millions, Howell and his students prayed for specific prayers about four specific aspects of the war. The first prayer was that Hitler would not succeed in invading Great Britain. As his history tells us, Great Britain did not fall to the Nazis. But if the Germans had kept up their bombing just 5 more minutes on the last hour of building, Great Britain would have fallen into their grasp. The second prayer was that Hitler would not attack Egypt and gain Alexandria. The third prayer was that he would not succeed in overthrowing Moscow. And the fourth was he would not succeed in his attack against Stalingrad. Toward the end of the war, military commentator General G.R.C. Fuller published an article titled Hitler's Four Blunders, listing four reasons for the impending doom of Hitler and the Nazis. First, Hitler failed to invade Britain. Second, he did not attack Egypt and gain Alexandria. Third, he did not capitalize on his advantageous position to invade and overthrow Moscow. And fourth, he was defeated in the Great Attack on Stalingrad. Were these four blunders merely Hitler's failures, or did they happen because God heard the prayers of these small group in Wales? Desperate to see deliverance so that the gospel would not be hindered. While many may speculate, I believe that the later is the answer. The last great prayer battle for Howells and the praying intercessors at Wales Bible College was for the opening of the Western Front. After months of wrestling prayer on behalf of the Allied troops in May 1944, God assured them that He was going over before the Allied troops and that they would have no setback. 1 month later, on June 6, 1944, Allied forces successfully landed unmolested on the beaches